Hello girls and boys, ladies and gentlemen. Traffic in the Philippines seems to be a mystery for the newcomer to our country. Traffic rules exist, but they seem to be just recommendations, not mandatory. Everybody drives around following an unwritten traffic law which is beyond logic and predictability. Newcomers are usually flabbergasted because of that. They usually express their helplessness seeing all the traffic all over the place, and they promise never to drive a car, let alone a motorbike, on Philippine streets. But circumstances dictate very often that the foreigner has to get his own transportation, because relying on public transportation can be erratic and unreliable, and it is time-consuming all the time. So the newbie has to adapt to the traffic and learn to read it properly in order to get through safely. So what are the critical aspects you have to learn in order to get around without stress, or even worse? There is a certain psychology driving cars or riding bikes, which dictate the flow of the traffic, and there are certain tell signs which, once being aware of, make orientation and safety much easier. And this is it about this series. It is not a learn how to drive video or a preparation for an official license test with the LTO. This is a practical guide where I present to you scenes from the street and explain what to look for and how to interpret the specific situation. So do not expect any spectacular accidents. It is not about that. It is about avoiding becoming a statistic by reading and becoming able to anticipate potential trouble. Without that, the traffic here remains a mystery indeed. Enjoy. This doesn't look dangerous at all, does it? But there is a catch, and this is the parked transportation vehicles at the side of the road. If you see a passenger jeepney parking at the side or stopping at the side, there is always the possibility that a passenger jumps out and crosses the street without looking left or right. There have been countless cases where this has been happening. That's why if you see a passenger jeepney, slow down and be ready to use your brakes. Here I'm closing in onto SUVs, and as you can see, there's virtually no space to overtake them. SUV owners have the tendency to be unconcerned. Here he tries to overtake the SUV on the right side, but then backs off. In this kind of situation, you have to get prepared to slow down and fall back behind the SUV on the right side, because he might change lane right in front of you, although you are visible, you're not in a blind spot. So you have to be very watchful and observe the right vehicle. The situation here is not that critical. In front of us is a truck and a slow-moving tricycle. We have two options. Wait until one of the two lanes is free, or overtake once there is no more oncoming traffic, which was the case. In each case, patience is the key for not ending in disaster. Here another almost typical situation. A young lady on a scooter without helmet and without gear cutting into my lane because of that garbage truck on the right side. Here you see, she just changes lane without looking and even braking as if there is no traffic behind her. I guess her rear view mirror are just good for refreshing the makeup. In this case, I saw really early that she moved into my lane and I was able to overtake her because I didn't have oncoming traffic. The next scene gives us more than just one problem. We see here tricycles on both lanes with the fast tricycle not leaving the left lane. Overtaking on the right side, you have to be always cautious because if you have buildings on the right side, people might get onto the street or other vehicles might get out of a garage or out of a side street, and the surface of the right side is usually a little bit bumpier. Here the tricycle tries to overtake the truck on the right side. At least it seems so, but it has traffic coming up to him and other vehicles parking. A very usual scenario, especially when shops are on the side of the street. Here another typical scene. A comparatively slow-moving truck staying on the left lane, so we have no choice but to pass on the right side. And the same thing with a tricycle. In case of a tricycle, you always have to be prepared that once the driver sees a passenger, it will shoot to the right in front of your nose. Here away from the national highway on a back road, a typical scene with a scooter. The rider without any gear and overtaking on the right side, although he didn't get any advantage. Here there's something parking on the right side and something hiding behind it. This is something you have to expect basically all the time if there is a bigger vehicle parking on the right side. Here everything seems to be okay, but look at the jeepney with almost half of the car on my lane for no reason. Be prepared for evasive action. And here the famous pole in the middle of the street. You should take this into consideration all the time. Here we're back on the national highway, 4 lanes and cars coming out from the side road. If necessary, they will stop and make you slow down or even stop because they assume they have the right of way. If you are too fast, it becomes dangerous. Here we have 2 vehicles which want to cut into our lane. The guy on the scooter is watching but not moving, while the SUV on the left is not moving, but we cannot see if the driver is watching. But it looks like as if both of them are waiting for me to pass. And now take a look at the next scene. I'm entering the roundabout and the truck goes straight ahead. Here another look at the scenario. I'm already in the roundabout. The signboard here indicates that he has to give way entering the roundabout, but the truck driver prefers to ignore signboard and goes through full speed. If I hadn't anticipated this, I might not be sitting here and explaining the situation to you. This is a typical situation you have to be prepared for all the time, especially dealing with trucks and other big vehicles whose drivers have the tendency to muscle themselves through the traffic. Another typical scenario which requires caution: traffic from the left entering the main highway without looking left or right, so be prepared for evasive action. Here a road with no traffic ahead. As a tricycle comes up on the right lane, making its way in the opposite direction, and ahead a delivery truck merges into the free lane. Luckily there is enough space to overtake. Once again another incident where a slow-moving vehicle cuts in front of you. And the last for today, at the traffic light, behind a huge truck. They usually stay on the left side, since the right lane usually is occupied by parking vehicles. To overtake here, it's advisable to move to the right cautiously, looking especially for smaller bikes who want to squeeze through. In this case, nobody else was around and I was able to overtake without problem. This is it for today. Stay tuned for our next traffic mumble jumble in the Philippines and how to stay safe on the road.